Greetings, astrology aficionados. Today I would like to discuss the distribution through the American solar return of Jupiter Leo. So I'm going to extend this arc to reflect the fact that right now the ascendant of the United States solar return for 2017 has been directed using primary directions, using ascensional degrees into the term of Jupiter Leo. So before we really get started talking about what this means, let's look at some previous Jupiter distributions to get an idea of what to expect. Okay. Before we even start with that, let's talk a little bit about what Jupiter means, both universally for everyone and specifically for the United States. Okay, so in the United States nativity, Jupiter rules the first house, which is, now this is the solar return that we're looking at, but these little triangles denote the angles of the national chart, the natal chart for America. Right? And so you can see that Jupiter is a lord of the angles. Jupiter rules Sagittarius, which is the United States ascendant, thus representing the United States itself as an entity. Jupiter also rules Pisces, and Pisces is the fourth whole sign in the United States nativity, right? Pisces, the fourth house, which is families, public buildings, statuary, and things like that. Jupiter is the exaltation lord of Cancer and will rule Cancer if the moon can't. And in the United States nativity, the moon really cannot rule Cancer because she is void in her course. So Jupiter takes over responsibilities for Cancer, and Cancer is the eighth whole sign. Thus, Jupiter becomes a symbol for morbidity and death and the finances of our trading partners, among other things. So, what does Jupiter mean in the return figure here, right? Natally, he means the ascendant, the life of America. He represents the families of America and the public spaces of America and its statuary and other fourth house things. And he means death and taxes, right? So what does he mean in the return figure? Well, first of all, let me just say that Jupiter is going, and any planet is going to carry its natal meanings with it forever and ever and ever throughout its transits, its directions, its profections, its progressions. Anything you do with a planet, it's always going to retain its natal meanings. So Jupiter is always going to mean the life of the United States and its families and public buildings and its death and taxes. And in the solar return, that natal meaning is permuted in the annual cycle. And so in this return figure, Jupiter rules the ninth house of courts, right? And Pisces winds up being the 12th house of private enemies and mistakes. So Jupiter is associated with that in the solar return as well, because Pisces here is the 12th. And Cancer comes out being the fourth house here. The house, again, of public buildings, the house of family values, the house of public statues and things of that nature. Cancer. That's what Jupiter means in this chart right here. And also, Jupiter's placement in Libra in the seventh in the return figure determines Jupiter towards seventh house oppositions, seventh house conflicts, and things like that. So, looking back over the solar return figure and the distributions of Jupiter specifically, let's start with Jupiter Taurus. Okay, the distribution of Jupiter Taurus occurred between July 23rd and July 29th. Okay, and during that time, on the 24th, President Trump gave a speech to Boy Scouts, 35,000 of them, Boy Scouts, the 2017 National Scout Jamboree. Now, this has also become, believe it or not, for some reason, Jupiter in this chart, in this solar return chart, stands for Boy Scouts for some reason. Boy Scout stuff. Because now that we've reached the distribution of Jupiter Leo, We just hear news about girls being allowed into the Boy Scouts, right? So Jupiter represents Boy Scout stuff, right? So what else does Jupiter represent? What else happened during the Jupiter distribution from July 23rd to July 29th? Well, attacks on Obamacare. On the 24th, the United States Senate started to vote about replacing Obamacare with something Republican. So a Republican health care bill started to float around on the 24th. Also, sanctions against Russia. Those happened on the 24th as well. On the 26th, we're still in the Jupiter distribution. President Trump tweeted that transgender people cannot serve in, quote, any capacity, end quote, in the United States military. So transgender rights, especially as it pertains to the military, seems to be associated with Jupiter in this solar return. On the 27th, Jeff Bezos, the CEO from Amazon, became the richest man in the world for like 5 seconds. He was the richest person in the world for one day. And then he lost the title again to Bill Gates. Also on the 27th, the House passed a bill that allowed for a down payment on President Trump's controversial border wall with Mexico. Also, there was a large budget increase for the Pentagon. So money for Trump's plans, also represented by Jupiter. Right? And again, attempts to repeal Obamacare. And then finally, towards the end of the distribution, we had some important replacements in Trump's camp. Reince Priebus was fired and replaced by John Kelly for the White House Chief of Staff. And also President Trump removed Anthony Scaramucci as the White House Communications Director. He was appointed 10 days earlier and then fired. Okay, so that was the Jupiter distribution in Taurus. Now, the next one would have been this one here in Gemini. Okay, and this one was a doozy because then Jupiter's other significations come out, right? The Unite the Right rally. Okay, all of this Unite the Right stuff happened because of the removal of a Robert E. Lee sculpture. Again, that's fourth house stuff, and Jupiter rules is the exaltation ruler of Cancer, the fourth house in this chart, and he also rules Pisces, which is the fourth house in the natal chart of America. So the removal of the Confederate sculptures and monuments and memorials, this is very much a fourth house thing, very much associated with Jupiter. So during Jupiter Gemini, the Robert E. Lee Memorial was removed and violent clashes broke out between the protesters and counter-protesters, and there were deaths on that day. Virginia State Police troopers are killed. Their surveillance helicopter crashed and killed them both. It was so bad that the governor of Virginia actually had to declare a state of emergency. Right? And it took President Trump forever to condemn the what are called white supremacist groups at Charlottesville. He was criticized for not condemning them immediately. Right? Now, I certainly do not really give my opinion on politics and the happenings in this country, because as an astrologer, my place isn't to really give opinions, it's to give judgments. And they're two totally different things. However, it does seem to me that America has a choice. Remove the Confederate monuments, but then replace them with actual Confederates. So that's the choice we have here. Get rid of the monuments and embrace actual Confederates, or keep the monuments and just let it be business as usual. And, you know, those are the choices. Removing the monuments is only going to exacerbate the right-wing people, and it's going to cause them to be proud of themselves, and it's going to create an issue where perhaps there was not one before. But America has decided that it wants to escalate this issue, and, you know, so be it. America wants actual Confederates instead of Confederate monuments. So be it. Now, from the 18th of August until the 27th of August, the Dexter trine of Jupiter becomes a participator becomes another very important kind of Time Lord. And during that period, Steve Bannon was fired from his position as the White House chief strategist. He was fired. There was also a mass resignation of the President's Committee on the Arts and Humanities to protest Trump's response to the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. Right? And there was also, a counter demonstration of 30,000 people on Boston Common to protest a right-wing rally. So this was actually during the distribution of Venus Gemini, but an aspect of Jupiter became a secondary Time Lord during that period. And we had some Jupiterian things, such as the firing of important people on Trump's team, and also some counter demonstrations against the Unite the Right rally. Right. So now, during that time, there were also, what else happened? The total solar eclipse on August the 21st. Right. On August the 22nd, also during the Jupiter. The trine of Jupiter as a Time Lord. President Trump says that he's going to close down the government if he has to in order to build his wall along the Mexican border. This was on the 22nd of August. On the 23rd of August, the science envoy for the State Department, Daniel Kamen, resigns following Trump's response to the rally in Charlottesville. And in his resignation letter, he spells out the first letter of every paragraph with the words impeach. All right. Also, this lady from Chicopee, Massachusetts wins almost $759 million, the largest jackpot in North American history. That's also very Jupiterian. Now, Jupiter's, how should we say it? Jupiter's meanings, his significations and for death also were demonstrated on August the 24th when, for the first time, a new drug cocktail of etomidate, rocuronium bromide, and potassium acetate is used by the United States for lethal injections. That's the signification of Jupiter as meaning death right there. So Mark Assay was the first dude in the hat, the first person to receive the dubious honor of being put to death with this new cocktail. Also, Hurricane Harvey happened on the 24th. Then, and it lasted obviously for a while. It had some serious side effects. Donald Trump again on the 24th signs a directive that bans transgender military recruits. So remember, way back here during the Jupiter distribution through Taurus, President Trump made his tweet that he's going to restrict transgenders from participating in the military. And here, in the Venus term, with the trine of Jupiter, right? Let me see if we can't. Let's see if we can't outline that trine. So here's Jupiter at 14 degrees of Libra. So you can see he casts his trine ray right into here, and this makes him a participator with Venus, right? Makes him a participator with Venus. Now, also during this time, when Jupiter is the participator with Venus, President Trump pardons former Maricopa County Sheriff Joe Arpaio. Pardons him. So pardoning, liberating, and freeing is a meaning of Jupiter in this chart. Okay. Now, the next time Jupiter becomes really prominent is when his Dexter square, which occurs in the Mercury term of Cancer. The Dexter square ray, right here. That happens that is an active Time Lord from September the 20th until the 27th. And during that time, Hurricane Maria made landfall in Puerto Rico, right? Millions left without power. Jupiter is very powerful in producing storms. On the 20th of September, some kid opened fire in a school cafeteria in Illinois. Thankfully, nobody was hurt. And on the 24th, there was the Tennessee church shooting, which was perpetrated by a Sudanese immigrant to this country. On the 25th through October 4th, the term of Jupiter Cancer was active. We missed this guy before. Jupiter Cancer right? From the 25th of September to the 4th of October. And of course, on the 27th of September, there was a stabbing of a kid in a high school in the Bronx. And on the 1st of October, there was the Las Vegas massacre. Okay. And so those are Jupiter's significations of death, Jupiter's significations of expansion and making things bigger. All of that contributed to the October 1st Las Vegas massacre. Let me be very clear. The Las Vegas massacre is 100% a result of the solar return. It has nothing to do with the eclipse. Leo isn't concerts. I mean, it's not necessarily concerts. It's not automatically concerts. It has nothing to do with the eclipse, and has more to do with the distributions of the solar return ascendant. Some people tried to blame the Las Vegas incident on Jupiter's transit through Scorpio. I must remind everyone that Jupiter wasn't even in Scorpio yet, was several degrees from entering into Scorpio, and Jupiter is going to any planet will retain its meaning in the sign up until it leaves that sign. So Jupiter Scorpio had nothing at all whatsoever to do with the massacre in Las Vegas. So, now we are in Jupiter. Oops. Let me go ahead and extend the arc here. Now we are in Jupiter Leo. The Jupiter distribution through Leo. And as soon as we entered into that, terrible wildfires in California. Leo's a fire sign, okay? So far, there are like 24 people dead in that wildfire. The death toll it keeps climbing. Hundreds of people are missing. Property damage must be in the millions and billions, or it must be absolutely huge. So this is by far one of the worst wildfires in California in California for this year. I'm sure, and maybe in its history. Who knows? But it's a terrible tragedy, and it has to do with the fiery nature of Leo and the propensity of Jupiter to big up everything, to make everything bigger. Now, Jupiter is going to be the term ruler, which means he is the distributor of this solar return from the 9th of October all the way up until the 17th. And then he hands over the distribution to Venus, Leo. And we'll have a different situation. Okay. But right now, he is the term ruler from the 9th until the 17th. Right. And on the 10th, the participator became the sinister sextile of Venus. Right. So let me color this in blue because it's a sextile. Try to pick a pretty blue. So Venus casts her sextile right into the very beginning point of Leo. And so she becomes a distributor as well. Right? So the current distributor is Jupiter, right? And the partner to the distribution, the participator, is Venus. Okay. Now, scrolling through the current events today, they are all redolent of Jupiter and Venus. Here's one. Trump's Obamacare order will deepen health inequality. So now again, there's beating the drum to replace the Affordable Care Act. That's that happened during the Jupiter Taurus distribution, where Obamacare was threatened by President Trump, and now it's happening again. Right. Also, here's another headline, and this is from the Washington Post. Trump to set new conditions for the United States to stay in the Iran nuclear deal, tossing the issue to Congress. This is a result of Jupiter's 7th house meaning in the solar return. Deals, negotiations, that's a 7th house matter, and Jupiter certainly is representing that accidentally, not necessarily by dint of his universal meanings. Mercury universally represents negotiations, but simply because Jupiter coincidentally falls within the 7th house in this solar return figure, he is determined toward negotiating. Right? Another headline, the Taliban can't win, says commander of U.S. forces in Afghanistan. I actually didn't know that we were still fighting the Taliban, but I think that's a demonstration of the 7th house warlike nature of any planet, Jupiter, the distributor in this sense. And also it's a manifestation of Venus. Venus is a significator for Islam. Right? The wildfires in California, we already talked about. Here we go from CBS News. New Orleans cop shot to death while on routine patrol. Jupiter in the 7th represents death. Jupiter ruling the 9th represents cops and the law enforcement apparatus. And there was another cop shooting here recently during the Jupiter Leo term as well. So there we go. What else is in the... Oh yeah, Hurricane Ophelia on a path for Ireland and the United Kingdom. Go figure. I never even knew that those countries could have hurricanes. God bless them and protect them. But, you know, this is certainly a first. But, you know, just about every major hurricane we've had this season has been implicated by Jupiter and even Mercury. So that's that. Now, here's another one that highlights Jupiter's significations for both family and death. Boy's body found after 3 adults slain. Manhunt underway. That was from ABC News. I don't really know the full story on that, but it sounds awful. It certainly resonates with Jupiter's meanings of death and his exaltation rulership of the 4th house. Right? Now, also, we're well aware that a family of like 4 was released from the Taliban, an American family with a Canadian husband, released by the Taliban or freed or liberated somehow, captured by, from the Taliban. And that's certainly a manifestation of Jupiter and his penchant for liberation and for liberating. His rulership, exaltation rulership of the 4th in the return figure, right? And his natal rulership of the 4th in the nativity, right? Determines Jupiter towards families. And this was a family that was liberated. The fact that Pisces is on the 12th shows that is shown by the husband who doesn't want to board a military plane to leave Afghanistan because he's scared he's going to get arrested because he used to be married to the sister of a terrorist. Right? So that's the 12th house nature of Pisces, which is the radical root 4th in the United States nativity. The 12th house nature of it coming out in the return is on display when the man did not want to board the plane because he was scared he's an enemy of the United States. So this is how the Jupiter term has been playing out for us. Pretty soon on the what date do we say here? The 14th, I want to say, the 17th. On the 17th, the distributor will change over to Venus, and Venus will be the term ruler for the American solar return ascendant from the 17th until the 23rd of October. So I will get with you guys then, and we will discuss it. Thank you for watching.